Thank you for joining us on this webinar where we'll be taking a look at GP payments and pensions in PCSE Online. We're specifically going to be looking at user management, so that involves logging into PCSE Online, assigning roles to existing PCSE Online accounts, creating new PCSE Online accounts. We'll then be looking at some frequently asked questions and the answers to those questions before finally handing over to you to answer some of the questions that you've asked during this webinar. So to start off, getting logged into PCSE Online, you need to go to pcse.england.nhs.uk and then you need to click Login in the blue bar at the top. From here, you log in using your username, which will be an email address, and your password, which is something that only you will know, and then you click Sign In. When you sign into PCSE Online, this first landing screen will be customized for the user. So first of all, it'll have your name. Then at the top, it'll have the username that you are logged in with. This top bar will appear on every screen of PCSE Online so that you can always see who you're logged in as, whether or not you've got any messages, give you the option to change your organization if you are a user at multiple practices, and also to log out. And then down at the bottom, these tiles will be dependent on whether or not you already have access. So for my account, which is the one that we're looking at now, I have access to records and supplies, but I could also have access to the performers list screens. And then after we've gone through this process of giving me the GP payments and pensions roles, I'll have an additional tile for GP payments and pensions. So we'll stick with my account. You can see that it's got my name there and my username at the top, and I only have records and supplies. Because I am a user administrator, I also have this user management option in the dark blue bar at the top, and this is what you will have as well. I want to assign myself the additional GP payments and pensions roles, so I'm going to click user management, and this is the user management homepage. Where you see the grey bar, we've got the option to create a user, deactivate a user, but what we want for this first scenario is this search box underneath, and I'm going to search for my own username because I want to update my permissions. I can see to the right I've got the filter set as username and all, but if we drop that down, we can also search for my account using my forename and my surname. And then the next drop down is used for if you want to search for any users in your organization who've got a disabled account. This means somebody who's tried their password too many times, got it wrong, and been locked out. I've logged in recently, so I know that mine's not a disabled account, but I'll leave that at all anyway. And then I'm going to click apply, and the search results appear underneath. There's only one search result because there's only one user in my organization set up with that username. I can see some details there. I can see the surname, first name, when they last logged on, how many incorrect password attempts they've had, whether or not the account is deactivated or the account is expired. So everything's fine for my user account, and I'm going to click on Edit User. This will then take me to my user profile. So at the top, I can see my title, first name, surname, username, telephone numbers, and then we've also got requesters email. In this scenario, the username and the requesters email are the same because it's me updating my own roles. When you do this for other users, the username will be the other user's username, but the requester's email will still be your email address. And that's for audit purposes so that we can see who has given which roles to which users. Underneath that, we've got the organization code. So I'm only linked to the one practice or organization. So that is grayed out. But when you're setting up new users, if you work across different organizations, there's a drop down and you can search for which organization you want to give them access to. I'll show you that a little bit later on. But if we scroll down, we'll be able to see all the roles that I currently have. So I can see that I'm a main contact, and then I've got a supplies role, a records role, and then the new GP practice user management role as well. The main contact role means that I'm the user administrator for supplies and medical records, so I can give users in my practice the supplies and records role. I can also see that I've already done that for myself in the past as well. So I've got the supplies order entry role, lets me order NHS stationery, sterile products like needles and vacuum as well. And I also have records movement admin, meaning I can track incoming and outgoing records and upload and download completed GMS3 temporary residency forms. And then lastly, we have the new GP practice user management role. This allows me to assign all the GP payments and pensions role to users within my practice. These are all the new roles. So prior to this week, you won't have seen these roles as options for you to assign, but you now can. So just a reminder that I'm doing this on my own account, but this is the same if you search for someone else's account in your practice. You will see the option to assign them all these roles, including GP practice user management. So in most instances, PCSE has set up one practice user management role within the organisation, but you can have up to 4, and it's a good idea to set up at least another one in case there's a scenario where you don't have access, you're on annual leave, you're not in work for whatever reason, there's someone else at the practice who can do this in your place. Some of the other roles to point out here, non-GP partners. So non-GP partners will need access to the pension screens. They don't get that by default. So as the user administrator, you'll need to find their account or set them up with a new account and give them that role. We have statements in here as well. So anybody who needs to be able to view the practice statements needs to be given that role. We have joiners and leavers, which is a role that's suitable for anyone who's managing the admin, for anyone who's recently joined the practice or has left or is leaving the practice. And then we have an accountant role on there as well. So that accountant role gives the user access to see the end of year pensions administration for everyone who works at the practice. You may also see additional roles when you search for existing users, and these are the GP roles. So you have GP principal and GP salaried. The assignment of these roles is linked to the GP's performers list details. So if the user is a GP on the performers list, they will automatically be assigned the GP principal and GP salaried roles. All GPs have a PCSE Online account already, so you don't need to create a new account for GPs. Right, we are going into this scenario, assuming that I've already read the guide and I know what each of these roles does. And then I'm simply going to go down this list and tick the box next to the role to say that I want to assign myself those roles. It's likely that as a user administrator, you'll either be a practice manager or a partner, and you need to be able to see everything. For this scenario, I just want to select some of the roles and then click Update. After I've clicked Update, I'll get a confirmation message in the top right hand corner to let me know that my information has been updated successfully. It's only a very brief flash in the top right hand corner, but once that's happened, you can be confident that the roles have been updated for the user. I'm then going to log out and log back in so that the changes are reflected when I log back in. So click logged out, it's taking me back to the home screen. I'm going to log in again, and I can now see that I have the payments and pensions tile, and it's also appeared in the blue bar at the top. Then to enter the individual processes, I just need to click on payments and pensions anywhere on the screen, whether that's the green button or the dark blue bar at the top. And if you want to see what that looks like. We do have a full range of user guides that talk you through each of the new payments and pensions processes, but we're not going to go into that today because we're just looking at user management and user registration. So now we've done my account, let's create a new user. So the steps that we've just taken to update the roles on my account, you would repeat that for everybody in the practice. And it's probably best practice to search for an existing user first before you try and set up a new account. Save you going through the process of creating an account, just search for them and see if they exist already and update their roles. But let's assume we've done that and the user doesn't already exist, so we want to create a new account. We click Create User. That will drop us onto the same screen that we've just seen before, but all the details are blank. So it is just a case of filling in the boxes with the personal details at the top, including title and telephone numbers as well. These telephone numbers can be the same number. So for telephone number, if you want to use the practice landline and then use that same telephone number as the mobile number, that's fine. It doesn't have to be a mobile number. And then the organisation code will only be optional if you are linked to more than one practice. If you're only working at one practice and you only have a user admin account for one practice, that'll just have the practice code in there anyway. So let's imagine I've filled those details in. I'm not going to create a new user now, but let's imagine those boxes at the top are populated. We then scroll down and we can see the full list of roles and all the tick boxes are blank because this is a brand new account. So it's just down to me as the user administrator to decide what roles I want to give to this user. I've ticked some boxes here. I've not ticked them all, but I have given them the GPP practice user management role, which will allow them to change their own roles, but also set up new users and change other people's roles as well. So I'm confident that this person should have that level of access and authority. Go to the bottom and click Update. There are two possible outcomes after clicking Update. You'll either get that pop-up box to say that the account has been created, or you won't move from the Create New User screen, and some of the boxes will highlight in red and they'll give you an error message underneath them to let you know what you need to do in order to create this account. And we find that it's usually that you haven't put a mobile number in because you thought, have a work mobile. You just pop the same landline telephone number in there and it'll let you proceed. And where new accounts are created, new users are sent an email with a verification link, and they must click that link to validate their email address, but also to set up a password. You'll notice that when you created the account, you didn't set a password, and that's because it's only the user themselves who should ever know their password. So they will get the confirmation email. There's a link in there that validates that yes, this is an email address, and that will take them to a page where they choose a password, which is a combination of uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and letters. Might have a special character in there, but whatever you choose, like with any kind of online account registration, if it's not secure enough, it will tell you, and it'll tell you what the criteria is for the password. Moving on to some questions then. We've recently done some webinars showing people this process or talking about the roles, and these are some of the questions that we have been asked. So the first one is, how do I remove someone's access entirely? And there are two options with that. You can either log into PCSE Online, search for the user, and then remove each of the individual roles. So they still have an account, but they can't actually do anything at your practice. Or you can deactivate their PCSE Online account entirely. To do this, you log in as a user administrator and click on deactivate user. You then need to search for the user by their name and then click deactivate user. The next question is how many users can have the GPP user management role? And the answer to that is there's up to 4 users within each practice can have this role. So like I said earlier, we set up most practices with 1, some practices with 2. I would say if you only have 1 and you're the only person who has this role, make sure you have a backup. Next question is where can I find out more about the roles? I did say that there is a guide. It's the GPP User Management Guide on the PCSE website. Probably the easiest way to find that is just put GPP User Management Guide in the search box, hit search, and it is the only search result. Click View File, and it will drop you into the guide. The guide does explain how to create new users, and it also has role descriptions. So if I click role descriptions on this contents page and then choose GP practice roles, it'll take me to a table that has the user role down the left hand side, a brief description in the middle, and then the individual processes that a person with that role can do. For GP practices, there's more roles than what we can see here. So there's just some forward and back arrows so that you can skip through to the next page and see the rest of the table. Another question we were asked is, can the user management role be given to the practice manager who might also have several other roles within PCSE Online? And the answer to that is yes. One user can be the user administrator for medical records and supplies, as well as performers lists and now GP payments and pensions. Why don't I currently have the option to assign medical records, supplies, and performers list roles? The answer to this is if you can't assign the roles, you're not the user administrator at your practice for these services. So you need to ask the user administrator to give you the main contact role and the performers list user administrator role. We only have one user admin who is currently off work sick. In this scenario, PCSE can set up another user administrator. Just please be aware that PCSE can only assign the user admin role, and then it's the user with the user admin role who then needs to give themselves and other users at the practice all the additional roles. We don't go through this process of finding an existing account and giving them access to statements, for example, and joiners and leavers. We would only be able to set up another user administrator. So I think I've talked enough. We're just going to have a look at the questions that you've been asking, and we will aim to either answer them during this webinar, or we will take them away and get you the answer to the questions and come back to you.